All right, today we're tackling one of history's absolute giants, a name you all know, Alexander the Great. We're going to dive into the story of the man who basically created a whole new world.
Seriously, think about this for a second. How does one person, one guy, conquer pretty much the entire known world before he's even 30? I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, right? But it actually happened. How did this young king, from what was kind of considered a backwater kingdom, manage to take down the biggest empire on the planet and completely change the course of history in like 10 years? It's nuts. And to figure it out, we've actually got to start a little bit earlier, not with Alexander, but with his dad.
Yeah, that's right. The story really kicks off with Alexander's father. Because, to really get Alexander, you have to see the absolutely incredible launch pad his dad built for him. So, when Philip took the throne back in 360 BC, Macedonia wasn't exactly a world power. It was kind of nowhere. But Philip, he had this huge, all-consuming ambition. He looked south to the famous, sophisticated, and always fighting Greek city-states and thought, I'm going to be their boss. And his very first move was to create an army that would completely change the rules of the game.
Philip's big idea was what we now call the Macedonian war machine. And this wasn't your typical part-time army. Oh no, this was a full-time professional fighting force. At its heart was the phalanx. Just picture this, a super dense block of soldiers all holding these insane 18-foot-long pikes. It was like a giant, unstoppable hedgehog of death. And then you had heavy cavalry on the flanks ready to just smash into the enemy. This was the weapon that was about to conquer the world.
And it worked. With this incredible army, Philip did exactly what he set out to do. He defeated the Greeks, forced them all, well, except for stubborn old Sparta, into a league that he controlled. He had everything lined up for his real master plan, a massive invasion of the Persian Empire. But then, bam. Right on the verge of launching this epic campaign, he's assassinated. And the whole thing, the army, the kingdom, the grand plan, it all falls into the lap of his 20-year-old son.
So just imagine that. You're 20 years old and suddenly you're handed this powerhouse army and a plan to conquer the world. I mean, most people would totally collapse under that kind of pressure, right? Not Alexander. He didn't just handle it, he absolutely thrived on it.
See, this wasn't just some jock prince. Alexander had the best education money could buy. I mean, his tutor was Aristotle. Yes, the Aristotle. So he had this deep understanding of science, philosophy, and literature. But on the other hand, his imagination was just completely lit up by the stories of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. He didn't just want to be a king. In his mind, he was the next Achilles, a hero whose name would live forever.
Of course, the Greek cities saw this young kid take the throne and thought, hey, maybe this is our chance to break free. Big mistake. Huge. When the city of Thebes revolted, Alexander didn't just go in and win a battle. No, he made an example of them. He completely destroyed the city, leveled it. The message was crystal clear. If you cross me, I will wipe you off the face of the earth. Nobody challenged him after that.
Okay, so Greece is now firmly under his thumb. It's time. Alexander picks up his father's blueprints for invading Persia and launches his army across the sea into Asia Minor. But here's the genius part. He sells this whole thing not as a conquest for Macedonia, but as a glorious pan-Hellenic mission of revenge. It's all of Greece getting back at Persia. It was pure political theater, and it was brilliant.
And what comes next? I mean, it's just one of the most insane, fast-paced military campaigns in all of human history. Seriously, the speed he moves at is almost hard to believe.
The pace was just absolutely relentless. He smashes the first Persian army. A year later, he routs their main force. He sweeps down the coast, takes Phoenicia, and then Egypt basically just welcomes him. Finally, he meets the Persians one last time near Arbor and just crushes them for good. All of this in less than 5 years. Think about that. By 330 BC, the Persian Empire, the superpower that had existed for centuries, belonged to him.
Okay, let's just hit pause for a moment, because this is a really key moment. After a major victory, the Persian king Darius is in a panic. He sends an incredible offer to Alexander. You can have half of my entire empire. His own generals are telling him, take the deal. But Alexander says, no. Why? Why on earth would you turn that down? What more could you possibly want?
Well, it's because Alexander wasn't playing for half. He was playing for all of it, and then some. See, in his mind, he wasn't just collecting territory. He had this vision. A vision of a single, massive global empire, all connected and shaped by Greek civilization.
Taking half was never the plan. The plan was to build a whole new world from the ground up.
And this is where the story really takes a turn. We move beyond Alexander the military genius, and we meet Alexander the visionary. He's not just trying to rule the world he conquered, he's trying to fuse East and West into something the world had never seen before.
To pull this off, he knew he couldn't just be King Alexander from Macedon. He had to be something bigger. So he starts doing things that shock his Macedonian soldiers. He adopts Persian court rituals. In Egypt, he has himself declared the son of the god Ammon. And then he sends a message back to the Greek cities, basically ordering them to worship him as a god. This whole idea of a divine monarch, it was a totally foreign concept to Europe, and Alexander just brought it in.
And his plan for mixing these cultures was just as bold. He starts founding new cities all over his new empire, dozens of them, and he names pretty much all of them Alexandria. Classic. But these weren't just forts, they were designed to be little pockets of Greek culture dropped right into the middle of Asia. They were meant to be melting pots, places where Greeks and local peoples would live together, trade, and create a brand new, blended civilization.
So, he's done it. He's conquered the Persian Empire. He's laying the groundwork for this new global culture. He's already planning his next big thing, an invasion of Arabia, and then maybe Carthage in the Western Mediterranean. He is on top of the world. And then, history throws a massive curveball.
In the year 323 BC, right at the absolute peak of his power, Alexander the Great falls ill with a fever in Babylon and dies. He was only 33, just 33 years old, and the massive empire that he had built, which was really held together by his personality and his vision alone, well, it almost instantly starts to break apart.
But here's the wild, ironic twist. His death didn't kill his dream of a global Greek culture. In a weird way, it made it explode. As his generals started fighting each other for chunks of the empire, a flood of Greek soldiers, artists, and scientists poured into these new lands. They brought their language and their ideas with them, spreading them everywhere. This period, the next 300 years, is what we call the Hellenistic Age. It's the era when Greek culture went global.
And you can actually see the result of this. Look at a map of the known world before Alexander. It's pretty much just the Mediterranean basin. Now look at a map from a couple hundred years after him. The world is huge. It stretches all the way to India. He didn't just conquer lands, he literally expanded the boundaries of the known world. He redrew the map, not just on paper, but in people's minds. And this bigger, more connected world created an absolute explosion in knowledge. I mean, we're talking about the titans of science. You get Archimedes discovering the principles of physics. Eureka in the bathtub. You get Euclid, who literally wrote the book on geometry, a book that people use for over 2,000 years. And you get Eratosthenes, who figured out the circumference of the entire planet with incredible accuracy. It's just wow.
And the epicenter of all this brainpower was that city he founded in Egypt, Alexandria. It became the new center of the world, a bustling metropolis with the legendary Great Library, which aimed to collect every scroll, every piece of knowledge in existence. And it had the museum, which wasn't a museum like we think of it, but more like the world's very first government-funded university and research center.
So when you look back, Alexander's actual empire, the political borders, that fell apart pretty quickly. But his real legacy, that vision he had of a connected world, a place where ideas and cultures could flow freely and mix together, that never died. That idea went on to shape the Roman Empire, and you can argue its echoes are still bouncing around today. Which kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about, right? His world was shaped by armies and new cities. What are the forces shaping our global culture today? Is it the internet? Is it economic trade? What's connecting us all? Something to chew on.